Suspension Unlimited Hydroplane Tour from Seattle, the 1994 Texaco Cup.
We're on Lake Washington, where the driver's ability will be put to the test today on a very tight 2-mile oval. Hello, everybody. I'm Jim Hendrick. And for the second week in a row, the Unlimited Hydroplanes have had a boat blowover in pre-race practice. This time, it was defending champion Chip Hanauer. Coming down the straightaway into turn number 1, his boat became airborne, flipped over, and was partially destroyed. An hour later, Chip Hanauer came back to qualify not only one boat, but 2 boats, the 87 and the 94 models. Now, this presents a pretty difficult decision for team owner Bernie Little to decide which boat is he going to run.
We're racing the 87 boat today, and it's the boat that won here last year. It needs one more victory to be the winningest hull in the world, and we want to make that happen today.
A second mishap in qualifying involved Ken Dryden in trying to bring his Miss Elam into the field. The boat was sent airborne, slammed down on the nose, broke the boat in 2. Dryden was airlifted to a hospital, and according to the URC, Dr. Keith Peterson, he has 2 broken legs. 2 years ago here in Seattle, Chip Hanauer flipped a Miss Budweiser in turn number 1. It took him a couple of weeks to recover. His place was taken by Scott Pierce, who today is in his own seat. For that story, let's go to Dick Crippen.
One thing about racing in Seattle for all of these guys, it's hometown to a lot of them, and it's hometown to a lot of the boats, so it's special to win in Seattle. Scott Pierce, as you learned a couple years back.
Well, Dick, the 91 win was the highlight of my career of all the wins. We had lane number 6 in a draw that year. Nobody gave us a chance in hell to win the race, and we not only won it, but we blew them off. So now I have a brand new boat and a brand new team, and we've come off our first race just a week ago in Tri-Cities, and we're looking forward to another great result like that.
And that's after a 2-year layoff.
Yeah, but it seems like I picked it up pretty quick.
Okay, well, that's one of the stories. Let's go down the pits for another one from Steve Montgomery.
Dick, this is where my hydroplane experience began about 40 years ago now, with my nose poked through this chain link fence, trying to get a look at Hawaii Kai or one of the Slow-Mos or Miss Thriftway, or maybe even one of the bad guys from Detroit, like the Shaneth family's Gales or Miss Pepsi or such crust. 3 of those boats have been restored by the Historical Museum here in Seattle and are actually going to be run as part of today's program. It'll be a very nostalgic moment for those of us who grew up in this area watching unlimited hydroplane racing in the 50s and 60s. In marked contrast to today's sleek, lightweight, turbine-powered hydroplanes with the driver safely under glass, down in the cockpit, held there by a 5-point harness. The sport has changed a lot in those 40 years, but the biggest change I've seen is right here. I have a pit pass.
And I'm sure you're going to see a lot better from where your position's going to be this year, too, Steve. The Miss Budweiser gets ready to go out on the course for the first race of the day. This is the 1987 boat, the winner from last year. The 1994 Texaco Cup is sponsored by O'Doul's, what beer drinkers drink when they're not drinking beer. By Eagle Snacks, for the crunch you crave. And by Rancho Suspension, technology that will shock you. We're ready for racing in Seattle, and we'll be back with the action in just a moment. Lake Washington in Seattle, and this is going to be the first race of the day, Heat 1A, and right off the bat, Jim, we've got something very interesting in the competition.
Yes, Mark Tate and Chip Hanauer about to face off for the first time this year in a preliminary heat. Smokin' Joe's will be in lane number 1. In lane number 2 will be Miss Budweiser. And in lane number 3, we'll see the American Dream, which is always a challenge. And lane number 4, in this hot heat, it's the T Plus with Steve David. In lane number 5, it's Miss Exide, driven by Mark Evans. And on the outside, international news with Mike Jones at the wheel.
As the boats come down for the first start of the day, they look like they're lined up perfectly. Let's see if we get an okay from the referee. Yes, we do. First race of the day, Heat 1A underway, and right off the bat, T Plus trying to get out in front. You can see the clear water. Don't let it deceive you. There is action on either side of Stephen David. Steve David through the cockpit, and there you can see as he gets the challenge right off the bat.
Whoa, we've got some rough water down in that turn number 1. Lots of bouncing going on, and coming off and out of that turn first is, look at the American Dream. Whoa, he gets a little light, he does. He being Dave Vilwalk. As he leaves the field right now, and look at the shoot speed he's got today.
We have said it race after race that Dave Vilwalk's got a lot of power in that boat. He's been doing a great job. He's been very consistent in the Performance Mortgage Sunset Chevrolet American Dream. It is a fabulous boat, and it's got a great crew and a good driver. So right now, he has put it out in front. Second place is the Smokin' Joe's. Third place, Miss Budweiser, trying to battle, but I'll tell you what, Chip Hanauer may be more concerned with the boats behind him out of third place than he is with the ones in front of him at this point. He is driving a replacement boat, the 1987 version of the Miss Budweiser. It has won on this course, but it is not the boat that he has been riding so far this year.
And this 2-mile course here on Lake Washington, Dick, is rough. That's only 138.7 mile an hour for our lead boat. So all the boats are really battling very big rollers and holes, especially in the turns.
They certainly are, and as they go through those turns, that's where it's important to keep the nose of the hydroplane down. Another great shot from inside of the T-plus. This is what Stephen David sees ahead of him as he battles to move up into the field. Here's the man that took it right out of the second corner of turn number 1, the Performance Mortgage Sunset Chevrolet boat, the American Dream, driven by Dave Vilwalk. Very, very familiar with this course. Matter of fact, last year he had a new boat that came onto the course, and he did very well in that boat. Did not win the race, but he stayed competitive all day long. Here he is in a boat that he feels very comfortable in, and he's out in front. Second place, Mark Tate. He'd like to get a little bit of that first place action if he could move his boat up.
We're coming close to the conclusion of Heat 1A, and the American Dream with Dave Vilwalk. They call themselves the little boat that can. Will they do it today? At least he's showing them the short way around the course this heat, Dick.
He certainly did. He got himself a good position, too. And what's interesting on this is that he did not have lane 1. That went to Smokin' Joe's. Coming a little bit on the outside of the course normally is a disadvantage, but apparently Dave Vilwalk, who knows this course well, took full advantage of whatever knowledge he had, and he powered his boat onto the checkered flag. And there it is, Dave Vilwalk finally taking a win out here. There's some pieces off of the International News boat driven by Mike Jones, and he has had problems with that boat. Did not finish this race, so they'll get that in and try to work on it some more.
And the reason he didn't, he also broke a propeller there with the checker flag in sight. Here's the way they lined up in Heat 1A with the American Dream the winner. And a surprising 5th place finish for Miss Budweiser. We'll try to find out why.
The winner getting back to the docks, Dave Vilwalk. He's got reason to celebrate. Meanwhile, they tow in the International News with the wing problems again and a propeller problem also. They had wing problems in Pasco. Let's go to the pits and Steve Montgomery.
When you rebuilt the wing after Pasco, did you make it stronger?
Yes, we definitely strengthened everything up, but it's a lot rougher out there. There were a lot of boats out there, and I think we were going a little faster too, so we're just going to have to take a look at it and see what happened.
Comments on your start were very good. You were right up there with the big dogs.
Yeah, they were. I think there was some concern that we could run, and I kept it right at 140. I kept radioing in, I'm right at 140, and it seemed a little delay on the start. Otherwise, we would have been maybe ahead of them at the turn. It would have been great.
It certainly would have been. Well, I'll tell you a guy who had a great race, Dave Vilwalk.
A whole lot of traffic in that first turn, and out you come first. How did that happen?
Well, Brian Piziak, Dan Walters, Tom Eckenberg, they all gave me such a great boat, and they gave me enough power to go race the big dogs with. And we went down in there. We got a good start. We didn't try to do anything kinky. We just stayed with a pace boat and accelerated away and, went in and got out of there first.
We get ready for Heat 1B. Nate Brown will be in there in the tide as he gets 5 from his son. He gets ready to race, and we'll get ready in a moment. The 1994 Texaco Cup, Lake Washington in Seattle, and we're ready for Heat 1B.
Scott Pierce in the Burien pit stop will be in lane number 1. The lane of choice was taken by Nate Brown. Everybody wants lane 2 today, and he'll be driving the Tide Taco Time. In lane 3, Miss Rock with Jack Berry. Lane 4, Mitch Evans in the Spirit of Lake Chelan. And in lane number 5, Pete's Wicked Ale, Ken Muscatel starting on the outside, and here they come, Dick.
And it looks like it's going to be a good start. All the boats are lined up. As they come across, they get the flag, and they're off and running. Scott Pierce in lane number 1 is going to try to hold on to that boat. It's a tough turn in lane number 1. That's why Jim referred to the lane of choice as lane number 2. And the Tide Taco Time is there. Nate Brown, he starts to take the lead as they go. Oh, Scott Pierce hooked. Scott Pierce hooked. No sooner did we say what a tough time he was going to have on the corners here than he goes out and hooks it. So he has pulled into the center of the field. He'll try to get back out on the course after picking up the buoy. He does so, but he is trailing the field. Out in front, it is the Tide boat driven by Nate Brown.
Right now, Nate Brown in the Tide comes down into corner number 3 and 4, and he's going to be chased right there by Pete's Wicked Ale.
The Tide is leading the field and running flawlessly at the moment. That's a nice, pleasant change for owner Bill Worcester, who's watching on the sidelines.
Tide Taco Time owner Bill Worcester is watching this heat with us here. You went through some parts inventory in the Tri-Cities, Bill. Right now you're looking pretty good.
Well, yes, we're doing well out there today. This morning we're doing fine. We don't really have too much competition. The boat's not being run too hard. But yes, you're right. In Tri-City, we lost a lot of propellers and a lot of equipment. It's going to be tough today. It's going to be a hard race. But I've got confidence in Nate, and I've got confidence in our crew. We're out here to win. We're going to give it our best shot.
Well, right now, the best shot is out in front. Miss Rock, meanwhile, has gone dead in the water. Jack Barry, he's trying to restart the boat. He is allowed to do that. If he can get it back up on plane, he can get back into the race. Meanwhile, the Tide boat continues to operate with no problems at all.
The Tide in first, Ken Muscatel and Pete Swickale is second, and now Scotty Pierce has taken the KMPS Presents Burien Pit Stop to third place.
And I'll tell you, Pete's Wicked Ale just took a wicked bounce out of the water and came back down. Ken Muscatel is really driving the boat to the max. You can tell when it lightens up, it means it's telling you, don't go too much further on that accelerator or we're going to have a real problem. He backed off it in time. He's still trying to catch the Tide boat. In second place, Pete's Wicked Ale, Ken Muscatel. Jack Barry is running in third. He is not actually in third place because he had a stoppage on the course. 124 miles per hour on a pretty rough course for the Tide boat.
So you can see that the water out here on Lake Washington is very rough. Look at the Pete's Wicked Ale go in there very hot and heavy but wide and trying to catch the Tide as the checkered flag is out for Nate Brown.
So Nate Brown, Bill Worcester, the owner of the boat, they are going to be very happy along with the entire Tide Taco Time crew. They have had a good start on the day in Seattle. They win Heat 1B to get off on the right foot. Now second place, Ken Muscatel in Pete's Wicked Ale. He had a rough ride but held it in there. And Scott Pierce takes a finish, and he finishes as a whole in the Burien's Pit Stop boat. Miss Rock finishes fourth, and the Spirit of Lake Chelan did not start. The problem there, a fuel injector filter was plugged up. They couldn't get fuel to the engine. Now watch the blue boat on the inside. Scott Pierce, he hooks it right there. He was very lucky that the boat did not go over. It's a tough turn in turn number 1.
Well, you took him into the turn first, then what happened?
Well, the pit stop by KMPS, we got in there and there was some real heavy-duty rollers, and the steering wheel just literally came out of my hand. It just spun it off into the infield, and we got a revolutionary design boat, and I was hoping to take the inside and be able to smoke them down, and we beat them down to the corner, but the boat's just not ready yet to run the inside lane. We're going to have to go ahead and move the boat back to the outside where I keep the air underneath it and stop the theatrics.
Now let's go down to Steve Montgomery.
Nate, so far, just like you planned it.
So far, I mean, we had a pretty easy draw, so we kind of kept the equipment together and that kind of stuff. And I got to hand it to my owner here who said, Nate, go for it. No, take it easy. No, go for it. No, take it easy. But no, Bill's great. It's great to be able to have the opportunity to drive a competitive operation for the Tide and Taco Time and Bill Worcester. I really appreciate it.
Bill, you're one of the only 2 owners in the pits with 400 points. That's a nice situation.
It's a nice way to get the day started. We're looking for a good day, and we've got a lot of tough luck on propellers in the last race, but things look pretty good today.
Well, if you're a race fan in Seattle, you sure know about the log boom and all the boaters that come out here. There it is. It is a great place to watch the races from. We'll be back to let you watch more of the race action in just a moment. We're looking down from our helicopter at the pits here in Seattle, Washington. The 1994 Texaco Cup continuing. Smokin' Joe's. I'll tell you, that boat has been running tough all year. Mark Tate has had a good season so far.
Mark, a lot of your friends you race against live here in Seattle, and they would like nothing more than to win right here in front of friends and family. You won the big race in your hometown, the Gold Cup in Detroit. You know that feeling they're looking for.
Well, it's an excellent feeling. There's no better place to win than at home. And, the Gold Cup at my house and my river makes it that much more pleasant for Mark Tate. And, but this race, I'd probably like to win it just as much as any of them down the beach. I've never won here at Seattle, and it's my home team's and owners' hometown, too. So I'd like to win it for them.
Unlike a lot of those guys, you're a long ways from home, but you do have Sandy and the boys with you, so you can spend some time with the family when you're not working.
Yeah, I really enjoy having my family members with me, and no matter what takes place here at the race course, when I leave here and go back to the hotel with my boys and my wife, it's more of a family environment. We have dinner together, we can discuss things as a family, and it gets your mind away from what's taking place here, good or bad.
Now you're back in Seattle where you had one of last season's most spectacular accidents. Is that on your mind at all?
Not at all. That's one of the first things I put to bed was the accident of last year. I had 2 races last year after the accident. I've had 5 this year. We're having a good year, and it's the farthest thing from my mind.
Compared to last season at this time, Mark, your team is really in a better position.
Oh, absolutely. We've picked up our consistency. We're finishing a lot of our heats. We're getting a lot of heat wins. We got 1 final heat win this year in Detroit with the Gold Cup, and we're looking for more as the season winds down here. We just hope that we can be there real close for the national championships when we get it done here with Seattle.
And for the second heat in a row, it'll be Mark Tate and Smokin' Joe's and Chip Hanover and Miss Budweiser going head-to-head. And, of course, there's Nate Brown, the winner of the last heat, also in there with the Pete's Wicked Ale, Lake Chelan, and the pit stop.
So good competition. They come around, they line it up. These are flag starts. They have to be lined up and approved by the referee. If they're in good position to start, they wave the green flag and send them on their way. Let's see if they get it this time around. The referee is checking out the boats. They are checking also from the helicopter. They get the sign. They're okay. They go racing on Lake Washington right out of the box. Miss Budweiser tries to take the lead, and let's see if she can hold it on, because now Chip Hanauer is a little bit further out on the course than probably he would like to be. As Jim said earlier, the lane of choice on this particular course is lane number 2. In the lead right at the moment, Smokin' Joe's. There's a challenge from the Miss Budweiser.
Bud running much faster down the chutes. They lost their fuel control valve to the restrictor last heat, and that slowed them down. Looks like that problem is solved as they go into corner number 3, side by side. Dick?
I think that at this point, Mark Tate has got to be thinking to himself, finally he has Miss Budweiser on the outside. Normally, because of the lane choices, it turns out that the Miss Budweiser gets the advantage over the Smokin' Joe's by forcing the Smokin' Joe's to the outside. Mark Tate taking advantage of every bit of speed, and you saw the Miss Budweiser lift up just a bit, 139 miles per hour for the Smokin' Joe's, 137 on the average for that lap for the Miss Budweiser. But you can see how the track lays out. The inside boat always will have a slight advantage. He will slingshot as they come out. Third place as they're running now is the Tide Taco Time. I think Nate Brown at this point says, let these 2 guys fight it out front. If either one of them goes down, I've got a chance of grabbing first. But right now, I'll let them battle it out. They may blow their engines for all he knows.
A little over 1 more lap to go in this 3-lap sprint here in Heat 2A. And watch the Budweiser now. Chip Hanover coming on, and look at the hold-off by the driver Mark Tate as they complete lap number 2, around 143 mile an hour. There goes the Budweiser slingshotting. Whoa! The Budweiser almost looked like he almost hit Smokin' Joe's.
We're going to have to see if there's any call on that one. He was extremely close. I don't know if the boats actually hit. It sure looked like they might have. It has not affected the speed of the boats, but we're going to see now penalized 1 lap to Miss Budweiser. That means Mark Tate can lay back a little bit, save his engine. He knows he doesn't have any competition for the lead.
It's called encroachment, a 1-lap penalty, and that's going to put the Miss Budweiser back in 5th place, and that's 2 5th-place finishes. Will they make the final?
Boy, they're going to have to really come on strong to get some points and get up into that final if they hope to make it. Meanwhile, Mark Tate is going to finish with ease, and he takes the checkered flag. I am sure he is one very happy driver at this point. Steve Woomer, the owner of the boat, and the rest of the crew worked hard to keep that boat in competition.
And here's the way they finish, with a damaged skid fin bracket keeping Pete's Wicked Ale out of competition.
Let's take a look at the replay of what happened on the course between the Smokin' Joe's and the Miss Budweiser. They were battling at full speed. They come down, and you can see how clean the lanes are. But now watch Budweiser go in, and he almost looks like he clips the Smokin' Joe's.
Mark Tate, listen, what happened out there?
Well, basically what really happened was we were having just a heck of a boat race. 2 drivers really going at it, and Chip approached a little bit going into corners 1 and 2 on the last lap, and the referees felt that it was bad enough that they gave him a penalty.
Did that affect your driving at all?
Well, you react to it a little bit, and I crabbed up the boat a little bit in that corner, knowing he was right there, and if I would have took a hop, we could have bumped each other. But, that's just real good, hard racing out there, and it was a lot of fun.
Didn't affect Steve Woomer. He seems to be happy.
Well, we'll take a win any way we can get it.
I'll bet you will, Steve. Let's go down to hear what Chip Hanauer has to say.
Chip, were you surprised the penalty was called? Did you know that you got close?
Yeah, I'm surprised. I thought it was just good close racing, but my opinion's not what counts.
The members of your crew watching over here don't like the call. You're unhappy with it too, I presume.
Yeah, but it's behind us, so forget it.
There's more racing later in the day.
You got it.
Well, Chip Hanauer will have a little time to think about that before he's back out onto the course, and they take a little break here in Seattle with a demonstration of Armed Forces air power. Back in Seattle, Washington, Dick Griffin along with Jim Hendrick and Steve Montgomery as we watch the T-Plus head out onto the course for our next race. You know, these hydroplanes are really technical marvels. The technology is so important to them. They are using computers in a lot of different ways, and that's the subject of our Eagle Snacks Performance Corner with Miss Budweiser team manager Ron Brown.
The computer age in hydroplane racing is here to stay. This computer is identical to that in the Miss Budweiser here. After each run, we offload the information onto this hard drive, onto the floppy. From here, we go into the transport. The information is then analyzed by the engineers. This computer monitors as many as 16 channels with a very high sample rate of 30 times a second. We can tell how fast this Budweiser is going in a straight line with this. We can monitor the G-forces the boat is seeing through the turn. We can monitor the acceleration of the boat. We can tell what the slip of the propeller is, the engine RPM, the engine vitals as far as the temperature goes, and also the fuel pressure. This computer was designed to withstand a blowover. It's waterproof, it's shockproof. It will withstand as much as 50 Gs. We had a mishap here a few days ago when the Miss Budweiser did blow over. But we were able to save all that information and from this computer analyze why the Miss Budweiser blew over. So as you can see, the computer plays a big part in the Miss Budweiser team.
Now here's the way they line up for Heat 2B here on Lake Washington. On the inside is the T-Plus with Steve David. Here's the rest of the field. Now why Steve David and the T-Plus would want lane number 1, I don't know. Nobody has wanted it all day long. For an answer why, let's go down to Steve Montgomery with Jim Harvey.
Jim, nobody's been real anxious to run in lane 1. You're going to give it a try.
Yes, the T-Plus engine treatment has to take a chance, and we've got to try and see if we can get a good start out of this next heat. Lane 1 was open, and our choice was to go there and see if we can make up some points.
When the Budweiser team has a couple of setbacks, it's kind of like everybody else catches a break.
Well, it's you could call it a breath of fresh air, which we're standing in a lot of that today, and see if we can capture some of that and take advantage of the situation.
Well, as Steve was talking to Jim Harvey, you saw the start of the race, and the flag went down. Right out into the front went the American Dream, Dave Villwock. Dave already has a win under his belt from the first heat today. He's going to try to make it 2 in a row, which would be something he has not been able to do thus far this season. Inside the X side with Mark Evans. You get a little feel for how that course is going. If you watch his hand on the steering wheel, you can see he's got a lot of movement. Talk about movement. Both the X side and the American Dream got high. Both of them waving to the crowd, not intentionally. But American Dream settles right back down. Dave Villwock back in control, and he holds on to first place. T-Plus now riding in second place, and the Miss X-Side right outside of him in third.
140.5 mile an hour average for a lead boat. Now we're looking at the T-Plus in second place, but right beside him on the other side of that rooster tail is Mark Evans in the X-Side. They're battling for second place, trying to catch the boat in front of them, which is this boat, the American Dream.
And when you get that shot from inside the canopy of the Miss T-Plus with Stephen David, you can see how he's got a problem trying to keep that boat in lane number 1 on the inside of the leader's rooster tail. He's got to be careful because you hit that rooster tail wrong, you could have a problem, and he just went through it. Steve David just got a dose of that rooster tail. He gets outside for a moment, swings back in when it calms down. Boy, he has got to be concerned at this point. Look at Mark Evans. A lap speed for the T-Plus of 138, but Mark Evans now, who was riding at 134, found some more power. Now it is Mark Evans in second place to the American Dream, and third place is the Miss T-Plus.
Could have taken on some water. Maybe it caused a problem. At any rate, the T-Plus is now third as we look at the 2 boats in front of him, the American Dream and the X-Side.
That is where the battle is for second place. We'll see if Steve David gets enough power to come up on the inside of the Miss X side, driven by Mark Evans. Neither boat is up where they can get a good shot at the leader, American Dream. Dave Villwock just flat walked away from him. He said, I'm going for it, and there he went. Inside the X-side once again, getting a good feel for how that water is reacting against the boat. Here's your winner, Dave Villwock, taking a much welcome second checkered flag. There you see international news going down in the water. Mike Jones driving that boat. Again, they will get a did not finish. That is too bad. They've really been working hard to keep that boat together and get it up there competitively. The American Dream takes the win, followed by T+, the Miss X-Side, Miss Rock, and International News. We understand they had a gearbox problem. Let's talk to Mark Evans.
From our inboard camera, we're aboard with you. We experienced one heck of a race.
It was a little bumpy out there. The wind's coming from that end. It was quite a ride. I pushed it really hard chasing Villwock into that turn in the Picos, and we got pretty darn loose, and we scrubbed some speed off there, and so I thought, well, let's work on Steve David now, and I knew Picos would come across on him and thought he had him, and we come around to that last turn and got into some more waves, and that's just enough to let the prop come loose, and Steve David beat me by just a hair. I haven't seen the tape yet, but man, oh man, it was close.
It was close and lots of fun racing. Now let's go over to Steve Montgomery.
Dave, the only guy in the park with 800 points, you got to love it.
I do. You know, this Fred Leland, Dan Walters, and this team, you know, worked so hard for Sunset Chevrolet to get us here and give us a good race boat. It was real windy, final light condition. It was real rough, but once again, they gave me a good boat ride, you know, make me look good.
And the draw couldn't be better.
Yeah, well, we'll hope we get another one like that.
Well, we'll see momentarily, but right now, American Dream's the only boat out there with 800 points. Smokin' Joe's right behind him, but look at that. No Miss Budweiser. Will they even make the final heat?
The world record, 200.419 mile an hour, held by Miss U.S. George Simon. The owner, George, you've held that record a long time.
Yeah, some 32 years. I think we'll hold longer because now they're running jets and not piston engines. So hopefully we can hold it for a few more years.
More race action from Seattle in just a moment. Don't touch your set. Nothing is wrong with it. This is taking you back some 20 years, if not further, when hydroplane racing looked like this. The antique boats have come to Lake Washington outside of Seattle. There's the Slow Motion 5. Ken Muscatel, who drives and owns that boat, is one of the leading forces behind these restorations.
A nostalgic moment in hydroplane racing here on Lake Washington. Dr. Ken Muscatel, why do you do this?
Well, I do it because it's the craziest thing I've ever done, and it's the most fun thing I've ever done. But I'm just the tip of the iceberg, the most visible tip, but there are literally 60 volunteers who work in reconstructing these boats. It's a little slice of culture that you can't recapture. There's something beautiful. It's a boy toy in the classic sense. Loud, colorful, noisy, spectacular, everything hydroplane racing has been and will be.
Now let's go down to Steve Montgomery with another driver.
Mark and I are sitting aboard a true racing legend. It's hard to believe this is really Miss Thriftway.
Can you imagine Bill Muncy running this like he did, and then me being able to go out and take a first spin? What a thrill. You just got to admire the guys, the guts they had to drive these things.
Your dad was one of those guys. You were just a little fellow watching him race the Miss Spokane and those boats back then. Really a different sensation than you have now.
It is by far. I mean, you sit clear in the back of the boat and you can really feel it jumping around. You're back by the propeller. It's got a lot of lift, you know, and where nowadays we sit up front and we're kind of in front of the center of gravity, so to speak, and you can feel the boat tipping. You're out in the open here. You can feel the wind going by. You can hear the engine extremely well, and it's just it's a really neat sensation, a lot different.
Where do I get in line to do a couple of laps?
Well, from what I hear, you go down to the Unlimited Hall of Fame Museum and pitch in a hand, and you might be able to take it for a spin. You look good in this thing. You look great.
All right, from the old to the new as we get ready now for Heat 3A, the Tide, Smokin' Joe's, Pit Stop, Beach Ale, Miss Rock, International News. They're all ready to go, and we're watching from the tower now to see if we get the flag to start this race on Lake Washington. Here they come, and there they go. Smokin' Joe's Mark Tate has himself a big win out here today, and he is in good position to do it again. He got his lane choice, and as we say, they like lane 2, and that's where he is, and he is out in front. Mark Tate in the Smokin' Joe's is leading the field onto the backstretch. He better watch to his left on the inside. He's got a boat coming up strong on him now, but he accelerates hits it good, gets it going down there. The Tide Taco Time, Nate Brown trying to catch him. He's still holding that inside slot. He's got to know that if anything at all goes wrong with the Smokin' Joes, he'll have the opportunity to move right up in there. He starts to move up a little bit more. Smokin' Joes powers on again as they come down the front straight. This is great racing action on Lake Washington.
Yes, it is. As they come down an average of about 140 mile an hour. We just had word that the International News, who did not make an appearance, could not replace a broken gearbox in time for this heat, so he's on the beach.
Well, we heard Jim Harvey talking earlier about how they have to come up with their own gear ratios and such, so it's not an easy task. It's not something you pull out and put in. If you don't have any standing by, you're in trouble, and that's what's happened there. Here's Scott Pierce, who's got to be feeling good after a lot of destruction to his boat last week. He's got it up and running, and it's looking pretty good out there, riding in third. Meanwhile, the lead boat, Smokin' Joe's, kind of got his pace. You know, they get out front, they find out what they can do. 140 miles an hour is doing it for Mark Tate right now. He wants to stay in front, but he also wants to keep his equipment together. He knows that later on he's going to get a challenge from several boats. He wants to be in good position for the final. Meanwhile, the Tide, another boat that has a win out here already today, is hanging right in there in second place behind him.
As we look at our leaders, Smokin' Joe's, there's a problem in Pete's Wicked Ale Camp. They've gone down. Radio has it. Skid fin bracket has let go.
Another boat down on the course is the Miss Rock. They apparently had oil pressure problems. No problem at all for Mark Tate out of Detroit, Michigan. The winner of Heat 3A in Smokin' Joe's, owned by Steve Woomer. Jim Lucero and the pit crew did a great job. They take first, the Tide second, pit stop third. Pete's Wicked Ale restarts and gets fourth. Miss Rock did not finish with those oil problems. International News apparently had gearbox problems and did not start the race. So Mark Tate in Smokin' Joe's comes back to a very, very happy pit. He's got himself a great day going. We'll see how it continues momentarily. For the moment, look at this. No, that is an airplane. That's a Harrier hovering. Back on Lake Washington, the 1994 Texaco Cup, and we've got a good heat of racing coming up next.
And here's the way they will line up for this heat. On the inside, once again, lane 1, Steve David T+. Lane 2, the coveted lane by Dave Villwalk and American Dream. Then the Miss X side, Lake Chelan. Miss Budweiser on the far outside.
Miss Budweiser hopes to get some points on this day. So far, they have come up with very little. There they go. That's the start of the race. Miss Budweiser in good position, taking on the X side on the far outside of the course. Those two boats side by side as they go into the turn. There's a good shot looking down. Back in third, it is the American Dream. We'll see if they can hold it in there. Meanwhile, it looks like T+ went right through, well, not one, but two Rooster Tails.
Oh, that lane number 1 is so tight he couldn't hold it. And meanwhile, look at this. It is the X side and being challenged by the Budweiser on one side and American Dream on the inside.
Mark Evans is having himself a ball. Rare is the time when he can draw and pull the Miss Budweiser on the straightaways, but that's what's happening right now. He leads out of the turn. Let's see if Miss Budweiser comes up on him again. Chip Hanauer being in an unaccustomed position of playing catch-up. There are your leaders, American Dream, Miss X-Side, and Miss Budweiser. 1, 2, 3 on the course. As you look down from above, you can see a great shot of the American Dream going into the turn. But let's go back. Let's show you a replay of what happened with the Miss T+. Watch closely on the left side of the boat as he comes up. Well, you don't have to see it on the left. There it is, almost center. He clips a buoy, then goes through the Rooster Tails. That is going to cost him. He is going to be penalized for hitting that buoy. It's an automatic penalty that plays out in unlimited hydroplane racing.
Now we look at our leader at 144 mile an hour, the American Dream. Budweiser took a couple of bounces, almost went over. He's still in the race in very rough water. And look, the T+ has lost its counting. Boy, this Lake Washington is really taking its toll today.
Well, he better watch out. He's coming around that turn now, and T+ from inside what Steve David sees. There you see Miss X-Side getting a little bit light, but I'll tell you, Mark Evans is driving a great race and taking full advantage. There's the T+ engine treatment boat. Steve David driving that one. There's Miss Budweiser now in third place. You can see she's a little bit light out there. Remember, that is the replacement boat. So Chip Hanauer hasn't really had a lot of seat time in that boat this year. Here's your leader and your winner of Heat 3B. Dave Villwalk takes it before the hometown fans. Second place goes out to Mark Evans. Third place goes to the Miss Budweiser, at least this time around, Chip Hanauer. managed to get some points, 225 of them. Lake Chelan finishes in 4th place. Mitch Evans and the T-Plus back in 5th with the 127 points. Now, if you'd like to become a little bit more involved in unlimited hydroplane racing, give a call to the number on your screen or write to the Unlimited Racing Commission, 414 Pontius Avenue North, Suite C, Seattle, Washington, 98109. Do it today. Get on board. They throw a line out to winner Dave Vilwalk. We'll throw a commercial and be right back. While you look out of our pit area here in Seattle, Washington, some of the beautiful views that we have, and we might remind you that not all of the action takes place on the water or in the pit area. These guys signing autographs, you think these are baseball players? You recognize the names? NHRA against URC. It's baseball. What about strategy?
Short bat, heavy swing, big glove.
I'm going for the heavy bat, hard swing, see if we can slam her out of the park.
38-pound bat. If you start swinging about 2 minutes before the pitch, man, that thing's long gone. It'll be in Vancouver.
Somewhere around.
That's the plan.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is going to be quite a game. Well, in the early innings, our hydroplane heroes were taking a bath. By the bottom of the 3rd, the score was 8-1 in favor of the NHRA. Don Bourdon, the stake, and Kenny Bernstein.
All right, we'll give you one more
Chip
chance.
Hanauer a little bit of a pounding. Bernie Little trying to give him a little bit of a pep talk there. But an inning later, it was Ken Muscatel who started to turn things around. He gets himself a double, scores 2 ribbies, 2 RBIs get across. Then Mitch Evans, and look at this guy who drives the spirit of Lake Chelan. He gets a double. Mark Tate singled, nearly even things up to an 8-6 score. There's Mark Tate's booming hit to right field. Oh, they get across, and it is close. 8-6 at this point, and the commissioner gets in the action. But well, what is that? Now, Mr. Donor, I don't know what to tell you about that. I think you're pulling my leg or somebody pulled yours. Anyway, Mitch Evans, what's the strategy?
This is it. We got to do her. It's rally time.
Well, they tried to rally. They got 2 more, but unfortunately, the NHRA got 3 more. 14-12, the final score. $3,000 raised for charity, bringing 2 different breeds of racing together for a good cause.
We're down here in the T-Plus camp. They won the Pearl Harbor race last year. Meet the new commanding officer of Naval Station Pearl Harbor, Captain Craig Kennedy. Captain, you're no stranger to this sport.
No, I'm not, Jim. I was born and raised in the Seattle area, and I have seen a lot of hydroplane racing in the past. I certainly look forward to watching more.
Now, this final race of the year, the Outrigger Hotel Thunderfest, changes have been made by the Navy.
Yes, we have, Jim. The most significant change is that we are going to make this a free admission event. It is open to the general public, and we hope to see a whole lot of people come out and watch that race. The Navy looks at Pearl Harbor with fond memories, and certainly with all those ships in the harbor as well, it'll be a great background for the last race of the season.
And we certainly are looking forward to it. The Miss Budweiser fans, good news. Chip Hanauer wins the last chance heat. Here's the way it looks for the final heat. American Dream, Smokin' Joe's, the Tide, Miss Exide, the Pit Stop, T-Plus, Miss Budweiser, a trailer boat, but she'll be in it. And they're getting the boat ready now as Bernie Little talks to driver Chip Hanauer. Meanwhile, down the pit, Dave Vilwalk with a perfect day is getting the American Dream in the water. We'll be back in just a moment. Seattle, Washington, the 1994 Texaco Cup is on the line. This is it, the championship heat. And the boats are on the water. Miss Budweiser in the trailer position. Boy, Chip Hanauer is not going to be used to looking at the rest of the field from that position.
In that tight number 1 turn, it'll be the Tide with Nate Brown here in the finale. Lane number 2, which is the favorite lane, is had by Dave Vilwalk in the American Dream. On lane 3, Smokin' Joe's with Mark Tate. Lane 4, the X-Side, Mark Evans. Lane number 5 is Scott Pierce in the Burien Pit Stop. In lane number 6 on the outside, the pace boat T-Plus with Steve David at the wheel, and for the first time I can ever remember, Bernie Little's Miss Budweiser way in the back.
They certainly are. They're the trailer boat on this start. Let's see if they get the green flag as they come down. The officials are looking them over. It looks like a good start. There it is. They take the start perfectly here on Lake Washington. Let's see how the boats sort out as they go down to turn number 1, and this is a tough turn. On the inside, it looks like American Dream is going to take the advantage. The Tide in lane number 1 gets left behind, but American Dream is in a battle for the lead. Dave Vilwalk in the American Dream is going to battle the X-Side boat with Mark Evans. Boy, these are two boats that aren't accustomed to being out in that lead position, and look at them go. Both drivers taking full advantage.
As he skips over in corner number 1, there's a lot of rough water down there, Dick, and it's the American Dream out on top with the X-Side second, tied on the inside third. We're looking from the cockpit of the number 2 boat, the X-Side, trying to catch the boat on his left, which is the American Dream, as they come down to complete lap number 1.
There you see your lineup as they finish out into lap number 2 now. It is American Dream, followed by the X-Side, then the Tide Taco Time. Inside, you can see the roughness of that course. Look at those 3 boats out in the lead. Here's your main leader. There's third place, the Tide, trying to chase down. The T-Plus is still looking at the back end of that field, trying to move up in there. You know, I tell you, it's a position on this particular course. I think even Dave Vilwalk will tell you that. He had a perfect day on the points. He got himself lane number 2. That's just what he wanted. Right outside of him was the X-Side boat, driven by Mark Evans. There you see a lap speed for the T-Plus at 135. He's right up in the fight. He just needs to get up into position where he can get some clean water. As you can see, he's got a lot breaking across the canopy.
When you're in the back of the pack, you have to eat the slop, and for the first time I can ever remember, Chip Hanover is doing just that in Miss Budweiser.
Scott Pierce is trying to catch him on the outside, but there is no competition at the moment for this guy. Dave Vilwalk, he's got himself about a 7-boat lead over Mark Evans, and now we go inside the Miss X-Side to see what Mark Evans is seeing out of that canopy. It is rough water, and he sees the lead rooster tail ahead of him. Now Scott Pierce is doing a fine job in the Burien pit stop. He's back in the pack, but he's still trying to hold the boat in there. Remember, that's a brand new boat. Smokin' Joe's was in contention at the beginning, but has also fallen off the pace.
Yes, he's had his problems. He was up there with the rest of the pack in the first turn, then slowed way down, did a big bounce. We don't know what happened, but he doesn't have the power he's had in previous heats.
So Smokin' Joe's and the Miss Budweiser are the 2 boats battling for 5th and 6th place on this course. Boy, that is an unusual position. Meanwhile, American Dream has slowed down to 127 miles per hour. He may have a problem aboard that boat because he was averaging 141 miles per hour. And he better watch out because Mark Evans coming up on the inside. Watch very closely. This is from the canopy inside of the Miss X-Side. You can see the American Dream, and there again. Oh my goodness, it's a drag race as they come down to the finish line. Mark Evans is to the right of your screen. Dave Vilwalk in the American Dream is to the left. Vilwalk seems to have the power, but will he be able to hold it up? He does. Dave Vilwalk takes it in the Performance Mortgage Sunset Chevrolet. A great drive for Dave Vilwalk and a great drive for the Miss X-Side, Mark Evans. They are 1st and 2nd, then the Tide, T-Plus, Miss Budweiser 5th, Smokin' Joe's, and the pit stop rounds out the field. There's a hero's welcome for Dave Vilwalk. They have fought long and hard to get that boat running. They had a perfect day of racing. They won every heat they went into. A drag race at the very end. He beat out Mark Evans for it. Mark Evans is down the pit with Steve Montgomery. Let's find out his thinking on it.
Guys, our 2nd place finisher is Mark Evans, the driver of the Miss X-Side, a very happy racer, and you should be. That's a great day for you.
It was a really good day for X-Side team. They did a great job putting the boat together. It was a fun run being out that far in front in the first turn, and it was just a great race.
Took a shot at him in that final turn. I thought you might have him.
We did. He kept moving out, and I saw the buoy line, so on the last turn, I figured this was our last shot, and he went wide, and I just went for the exit pin and almost got him at the end.
And Hanauer and Tate back there battling for 4th and 5th. You're not going to see that very often.
Not often at all. I wasn't worried about them. I was only worried about Nate and the Tide coming up on us, but we kept ahead of them too.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, guys.
Their problems today saw the Miss Budweiser lose a 645-point lead down to 66-point lead in the Eagle Snacks O'Doul's High Point Tour.
Dave, you hadn't finished a final heat all year. You certainly did today.
Yeah, I tell you, Fred Leland, Ken Ford, Danny Walters, you know, every time we would break apart on the boat, they would come back and make it bigger and better and more consistent than it ever was before. And we had a number of things that haunted us throughout the circuit. And, you know, they kept after it. They never had a bad attitude. And we always came out with a better and faster boat the next week. So my hat's off to all those people that worked so hard to make this boat what it is today. You know, we have a number of volunteers besides Fred, Danny, and Ken that they just come down and give of their time and the sweat of their brow to make this boat as good as it is. And, you know, I just so appreciative of all those people that help us.
Fred, you ran with the big dogs today. You worked a long time for this.
Well, as Dave said, we got a really good crew, but what really makes it happen is we got the very best driver. And so it makes it a lot easier.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Well, the American dream is just that today. A happy Dave Villwock and his crew. That's it from Seattle. On behalf of Jim Hendrick and Steve Montgomery, I'm Dick Crippen. We'll see you next time from San Diego, California. The Texaco Cup from Lake Washington in Seattle has been sponsored by O'Doul's, what beer drinkers drink when they're not drinking beer. By Eagle Snacks for the crunch you crave. And by Rancho Suspension, technology that will shock you. Unlimited hydroplane racing is sanctioned by the American Powerboat Association. This has been a production of Diamond P Sports in association with ESPN.